Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Menopause Mindshift Self-Love podcast. I'm your host, bestselling author Lisa R. Triggs, self-love advocate and menopause queen. So let's start with that. You might be wondering what the deal is with the tiara and the pink. So the tiara is a representation. It's a representation of not only me, but any other woman, what I call unleashing your inner queen. So when I was deciding on the name of my book, I was trying to figure out what would best represent me and the message that I was trying to convey. And I had happened to come into the possession of the tiara, and talking with my team, it came up. And they said, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to go all in. So I said, okay, I'm all in. I knew I wanted the tiara in some way represented on the front cover of the book then, once I decided it was going to be how I unleashed my inner queen, and you can too. So I believe now it was beautifully done. And the pink is the brand color. So I am on brand in most interviews, podcasts now, photos, and so forth, for the time being anyway. So that's the deal behind that. It's a representation. It's a representation of who I am, who I have become, and I hope who other women can become after watching me, reading my book, anything like that. So hearing my story. So that brings me into who am I? And I'm going to tell you that since this is my first episode, I do have a couple notes. So if I look down quickly, it's because I'm just trying to see where I am. Full disclosure. And that's one thing to expect in this podcast. Real conversations. I don't have a problem talking about certain intimate things. Let's leave it there for now, because this is the very first episode. But do I mean sex? Yes, I do. And other things like that, because it's a part of this journey. It's a part of this life, and we need to talk about it. So who am I? Well, we know I wrote a book, and I am now doing this podcast. So we know that I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a counselor. What I am is a woman who has been navigating menopause and all that goes along with it for almost 20 years. And I know that sounds really scary. Almost 20 years. You're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be going through this for that long? Not necessarily. Different women have different experiences during this time. Some are great, some are not so great. Some have a really hard time for a short period of time, and then it moves better, and some for a longer period of time. And that's something that I'm still looking into, because I want to know, is it circumstances? What makes one woman's journey better than another? And that's something for a future episode as well. But for now, I have been navigating menopause for almost 20 years. So what does that mean? That means that I have been through and seen a lot of shit. Yep, I said it. This is going to be a little raw, because that's who I am. I am a person who is going to be out there, and we're going to be talking about the rough stuff. If I wasn't like that, I wouldn't have written a book that talks about this part of my life. I wouldn't be going on this journey with you and with other women. And I am on this journey because if my story can help one woman not go through what I went through, I will be elated, absolutely elated, because that is my mission. I want women to feel empowered, to love themselves, to unleash the inner queen. That's the phrase I use, unleash your inner queen. And that is just live the best life you can during this time and think about it a little differently. That's something we need to do along the way as well. And I'll get into that in a minute because, okay, so almost 20 years. So the history behind that is I was in perimenopause starting from the age of 38 for 10 years, 10 years thereabout. And it was during that time that I slowly started to gain weight and was not able to lose it. I was starting to see other things creep in, like I was starting to feel more fatigued and more tired. My fuse was starting to get a little shorter. Things like that. Those were creeping in over those years. And what brought that on at such a young age, at only 38? Well, just like anything else, we have triggers in our lives. There are triggers that that bring about autoimmune diseases. And there are triggers that can start you into menopause as well. There are some women, it could be cancer, or trauma. So while mine wasn't personally traumatic, it was a very stressful situation that did happen within my immediate family. And I believe that is what the trigger was to cause me to go into perimenopause at such a young age. So at 47, I then went into full menopause. So I was without my cycles for 12 months. Apparently, that's menopause. After those 12 months, you're considered post-menopause. Okay. Who was the male doctor that came up with that? So if that's the case, then have been in post-menopause for 8-ish years, but 7 of those years were hellish. And that's what I talk about in my book. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here today and I'm doing this podcast, because I want to talk about all this. I want to talk about the journey that I went through, the journey that you're going through, and talk about it with other people who are involved in self-love as well, because that's what I discovered it boiled down to. Self-love. How I feel about myself portrays in every other area of my life. And during menopause, I was feeling really shitty. I was depressed, fatigued. Uh, um, I had almost 30 symptoms. I had the vertigo, inner ear frequent infections, like I said, the fatigue, depression. I had sugar cravings. Of course, I gained weight. I gained almost 40 pounds, 40 pounds. I was stressed to the max during those years, during when I started post-menopause. If you want that. I was stressed to the max because of something else that was going on in my personal life, which I'll get to in a different episode. But it's one of the reasons that I decided to write my book. And why I decided to share my journey was because I had a unique spin going on in my life. And all I'll say about it for now is that it had to do with my husband. And if you watch any previous interviews I've been on, I do talk about it a little bit. So if you haven't yet, please go back and watch some of the previous episodes or interviews that I've done that might be on my YouTube page. And you will learn a little bit more of what exactly was going on. And I do talk about it in my book as well, and was one of the reasons I did write my book, because after 7 years of having a hellish time, I decided that I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I am tired of feeling tired. I am tired of feeling fatigued. I am tired of having all these infections and all these other symptoms: electric shock, vertigo, uh, ringing in my ears, uh, and the list goes on. So I got tired of all that. And I just kind of came to a point, it's like, I want to try something different. I want to try something different. I did do hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, for 2 years um, during the first part of my post menopause, I guess you'd say, because that's when I started to have more difficulty. So I went to my doctor and she said, I'm hesitant to put you on it because the longer you're on it, the harder it is to come off. But at the time, I was so desperate that I said, I need something. I was I was crying every day. I cried every day for like 2 months straight. So I went to her and I said, I have to be able to function. I can't function. I need something. I need to do something. So I did take hormone replacement therapy for 2 years. So I'm not just someone who's talking a crock and saying, oh, I haven't done that. I have. And it did help somewhat. But hearing my doctor say to me, I'm hesitant to put you on it because the longer you're on it, the harder it is to come off. That concerned me a little bit. And that's okay. If it's your choice, you want to feel better, you want to be on hormone replacement therapy for it doesn't matter how long, even if it's the rest of your life, that's okay. I'm not judging. I'm opening up the world that I went through in a way I found to deal with my symptoms in a very different way. And I'm decided to share it. And that's all that I'm doing. I will say though that hormone replacement therapy is still a medication, and every medication has its own set of side effects. And I have seen uh, other women say that uh, it didn't help, or it didn't help in the way they thought it was going to help, or there were still other issues. So it's totally a personal choice. Everything is a personal choice. Even doing this is a personal choice. This was my personal choice, and it was my personal choice to decide to talk about it now and to put it out there and to write a book about it. um, so it's all well and good and great. You need to do what you need to do to make yourself get through this time. But I'm here to tell you that there was something that I went through, something that I discovered that made a huge difference for me. And I just want to share it with you. And that's what this podcast is all about. And the guests that we will have on, that was what my book was all about. And then I wrote a journal. It's called the Self-Love Journal. And one of the reasons that I did that was because there wasn't anything like that on the market. I couldn't find what I was looking for, so I created it. Even my book is different. It's interactive, and I include a menopause specific affirmation before each chapter. So that's what led me to the self-love journal. I was journaling one day, and I thought, there's most journals have just blank pages inside. So I thought I want something more than that. So I came up with the idea of a menopause specific journal, self-love journal. So it's got a series of affirmations are on one page, and then a prompt for something like 3 things I love about myself today, or three things that I am a woman who, and finish that sentence. Anyway, so these things were created with purpose. There was something that was missing in the market that I was looking for. So I decided to create it myself. And oddly enough, I did a travel journal as well, a smaller version of the self-love journal, because I was getting ready to travel and I thought, oh, what am I going to bring? And then it just hit me. I thought, oh, well, why not have a travel size of my journal that's smaller, lightweight, so that I can still have that with me and journal wherever I go. So that was that. um, so the transformation that I talk about, talk about this transformational journey that I went through. So what's all that about? So there is different M word that I'm going to use, that I'm going to talk about now, that I actually have not talked about yet. I have not even said this word in my book. I have not mentioned it. I refer to it as mind shift. And I chose mind shift, the menopause mind shift, shifting the way you think about menopause. For one reason, because to be honest, mindset has been used a lot, right? Everybody's talking about mindset, and I've incorporated that term a little bit too, but I considered it a mind shift, a shift in mindset. I shifted the way I was thinking about menopause, and I focused on the symptoms. And the way I focused on the symptoms was through the other M word. Are you ready for it? Manifestation. So let me explain. The tools I talk about that I use: meditation, journaling, the use of affirmations, um, visualization. These are all tools that are part of manifestation. So, and what does that have to do with self-love? Quite a bit. And this is why. On my journey to finding my self-love, or going through my inner work and doing my inner self-love work, bringing out my inner queen, unleashing my inner queen, becoming the person that I am right now, speaking with you, was through a journey of self-love. The meditation, journaling, affirmations, and so on, those tools were the path in which I took to get there. And what does that have to do with menopause? Well, everything, because I was at such a low place that I wasn't loving myself or anybody else. So when I went inside and I learned how to do that again through the use of these other tools, through the use of manifestation tools, I essentially manifested, follow me here, manifested a better menopause journey, a better life. I unleashed my inner queen. I unleashed this person you see before you, sharing this story with you through the use of manifestation. I manifested my symptoms to improve through meditation, calming my body down. Meditation calms your body down, lowers cortisol. It's one step on top of another. Lowering your cortisol improves your other things, the sleep, sugar cravings, all that kind of stuff. I also learned what exercises to do. I was doing a lot of cardio. I thought that's what I needed to do. I needed to keep my heart healthy. So I liked the elliptical machine. I would do the elliptical machine. But then I was getting so frustrated because I wasn't losing any weight. I was still gaining weight, in fact. Now, not only was my body still in stress, I was stressing it even more by doing all that cardio. And then I finally learned that I needed to be doing more weight training. And when I started doing that, when I started lifting a few weights and incorporating that a couple times a week into my life, along with the other things, the meditation and journaling about the way I wanted myself to be, I would visualize during a meditation about how I wanted to see myself again. I wanted to see myself back in my bikini again, frolicking on the beach. I wanted to see myself healthy, symptom free, no more hot flashes. Saw myself sleeping all night. Oh my God, I was so looking forward to sleeping all night again. The insomnia I had was crazy. And I'm sure there's many other women out there who would agree. The insomnia, I was up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you're exhausted, and then you're fatigued on top of that. So when I discovered that by calming my body down, and then by doing the right exercises, I started weight training and then just walking, I started to see improvements. I was elevating not only my dopamine levels, right, my happy hormones, I was improving my own hormone levels, improving my own estrogen. I was bringing it up naturally. So as a whole, I felt more energetic. So that is how I manifested an improvement in my symptoms. And that's why I call it unleashing my inner queen. And that's why I believe that you can too. And there's all kinds of ways to do this. And women who work full time or work out of the house, I know you're going to say, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do all that. So, well, just like anything else, I'm going to be a little bit bold with you and say, yes, you can. If you really want to do something, you can find the time. Now, you may not want to get up any earlier in the morning, but I'm sure you have a lunch break and two 15-minute breaks. If you work in an office, you can use one or both of those 15-minute breaks to meditate or sorts or to journal. That would be a perfect time to journal or to write down positive affirmations. I am affirmations. There are also things you can do before bed. I list on my website 5 things you can do in 15 minutes before you go to bed that will help you sleep better and even wake up happier. And they will also, by doing that, you will also improve your symptoms. And how do I know this? Because I've done it. I've lived through it. This is me telling you that if I can do this, so can you. This is what I did, and this is what has worked for me. I have manifested an improvement in my menopause. And that's why I say, if I can do it, so can you. And I did it using those tools. And as those tools, I was going through the self-love journey, the self-love improvement, doing all the inner work. And that's why when I say self-love has everything to do with menopause, because it does. Self-love has everything to do with everything in our lives. It's the root of it. It's the root of everything. How can I love somebody else properly if I don't love myself? How can I function in the world if I'm not loving myself properly? And I didn't, and we didn't. I got so consumed with what was going on outside, all of the symptoms, that what was really going on with me inside, right? I was hurting. I was miserable. So I had to go inside and work on her, work on the inner queen, and help her feel better using the manifestation tools. And that's how I unleashed her. And that's why I call it unleashing your inner queen. So I have taken up enough of your time. I thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you tune in for further episodes. This is just a little tidbit of who I am and why I'm here. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again.